So I've been working a whole bunch on the white car, but today I actually want to work on the wagon for a while, and I'm also hoping to answer one of my big questions, and I know someone else wants to know. Are the rear upper control arms on a 94 to 97 Honda Accord wagon the same as the sedan, the four-door? That's what I want to find out today. Alright, so we got him out. Let's get this guy up in the air and let's see if this stuff is the same. Here's the upper control arm, and as you can see, mine's shot. It needs to be replaced. It's cracking open bad. So we're going to replace that, but before we do, let me get the new part out and we'll compare them. Okay, so here's a new one. This is the sedan model control arm, which is much cheaper than the wagon part numbers, because the wagon part numbers are either unobtainable, special order, or 3 times more as expensive than the sedan parts. So these have different part numbers than the wagon parts, but we're about to see if they're the same. So holding it up, they appear to be about the same size, so let's get that one out and put them on the ground side by side. But first, what we're going to have to do is take this little dust cap off of here. It's like a 10 mil, and then we'll get this off and then take it off of the frame. Okay, so I got the protective cap off and wire brushed everything. So now I got to take the pin out of the castle nut here and get this loosened up. Okay, so I got the pin out of the castle nut. I just used a pair of pliers and a pick and a flathead. Just bent the pin straight with the flathead, hooked into the head with the pick and pulled it out enough to be able to get it hold with the pliers and yanked it out. And this nut is 17 millimeter, so I'll go ahead and zip this off. So I got the upper control arm loose here. I'm putting the castle nut on the end of the stud and then whacking it with a hammer and got it to pop up enough to get the nut off and remove it. So sometimes these ball joints get stuck to where whenever you turn this nut, it just spins and it won't do anything for you to get it off. So you can take a pair of adjustable locking pliers, you put it around the ball joint like that, and then you can take your ratchet or impact or whatever you've got, put it on here, and loosen that nut, and it'll pop right off of there. It'll save you a lot of trouble. Alright, so that's free. Now we're going to zip these bolts out from back here. These bolts are a lot longer than a Civic's. There we go. These bolts are like twice as long as a Civic's upper control arm bolt. Fortunately, both of these are in really good shape, so these will be reusable. Alright, let's get down to seeing the difference here. So it's just as I had suspected, these are identical. So the one on the right is the 4-door sedan, 94 to 97 Accord upper control arm. And that is the 94 to 97 Honda Accord 5-door station wagon control arm. I'm not seeing a difference at all between these two, other than I can tell which one's aftermarket replacement and which one's the old original one. You know, these are the same, unless there's going to be something different with the length of ball joint, which I highly doubt. These are identical, other than the fact of that you can tell which one's the cheap one and which one's the Honda original. The way you can tell that is the thickness of the metal and how the shape is formed. But other than that, I mean, that is one and the same. Perfect. Let's put it on. So for some reason my camera wasn't recording, but I got it together and it sits exactly where it was. There you can see it. So it went together and sits exactly where the station wagon arm was. So the sedan upper rear control arms are exactly the same as the station wagon. It's awesome because these are dime a dozen, cheap, easy to find, they're everywhere. The station wagon ones, the part numbers are always on special order, not available, or they cost like the price of performance parts. So if you're looking for a control arm, upper rear control arm for your Honda Accord station wagon, 1994 to 1997, that's your ticket. Use the sedan one. So here on these next shots, I'll get close-ups of taking everything apart. Man, this one's real stubborn. I got it. Sometimes it just takes a really hard swing to get things loosened up. So now it's spinning in place. We're gonna lock onto the ball joint with that. And then we're gonna come in. Okay, I'm gonna come in here with a pick. I can pop this ring off of this boot. Yeah, there we go. And we should be able to grab hold of it. That should give us more of a spot to grab hold of. There we go. Just had to get enough of that boot off of there so that we could get a good hold on to it. This one's in much worse shape than the other one, especially comparatively on the bushing on the top. I'm going to clean this up. Alright, so here's our old one. Here's our other old one. It's going in the bin. But keep in mind, these arms can be reused. If the bushings aren't completely dead, you can reuse that, and you can put another ball joint in the end because that's the part that died on these. So we could replace it with a new bushing and a new ball joint for later use to rebuild these. I just like to have one functioning on the car and then rebuild one in my spare time. So I'll do a video on that if I go to. Okay, so we got us another new one here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in. Okay, so on this one, the thread was being really picky, so I had to spray the thread with some lubricant, and then the actual bolts like thread perfectly smooth into them. So you may want to keep that in mind. Lube the thread in there before you put the bolt in, because otherwise it was being impossible. It would not thread at all. So this one was way more difficult. I had to lube the threads on both of these holes, and I had to put in this one first and then this one. So I don't know why this one was being such a pain, but all the threads are there, nothing stripped, bolts were in hourglass, everything was cool. It was just more of a pain, and now it's going in fine. Okay, so this one's good now. Now we can just put this one together. Alright. Now I'm going to need some help on this one, getting this put together, so I'm going to take a jack and raise up on this. There we go. So that definitely helps if you have any trouble. Use a jack to lift up on the hub assembly, and that'll get you closer. Now we'll take our little cover, put our cover back on. I'm not sure, I think I missed this step on the other side. If so, I'll go back and put my cover on. Yeah, perfect. If you go to do this and you forget to put your cap on the bottom of there, you could either run without it, or it's really easy to get in here with like a ratcheting wrench or a very small socket when the tire's on, and just do it afterwards. That's what I literally just did on the other side. While I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and lubricate a lot of the bolts on my struts, because next time I work on this will probably be on the struts. But I want that to soak in because I realized that those bolts are really long on this model. So there's the new one on this side, all ready to go. So most likely the next video on this is going to be doing the struts. I'll be doing that later, because I got to clean all this stuff up, and I'm going to do a dedicated video on doing the struts on this, because you have to remove the trim on both sides with some 10 mils and some Phillips heads. Push the seats down, you got to get all this trim out, and then that way you can get to the top mounting bolts on the struts. And you have to take them out through the bottom, and I want that to be a whole day endeavor because I want to go in depth on that. So that'll be in another video, but for today I'm satisfied. I feel happy having those new control arms in there, and today we answered the question, Are rear upper control arms from 1994 to 1997 Honda Accord 4-door the same as the 5-door wagon? And the answer is yes. You can shop in your bargain bin for your 4-door models and find parts for your 5-door. That'll be it for today.